question 8 is, I despise people who can't control their emotions.
Disagree.
Yeah, despise people?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's comfortable. I wish it wasn't that case, but I mean, you can't despise them.
Comfortable is a fun.
It's not like, great, finally you're here.
Keep talking, honeys.
Welcome, I mean, not welcome to the dark episode of Mind Under Psychopathy Badness.
We are so convincing as bad boys. We really are. Mm-hmm. We are the dark boys of
darkness.
We're going to be talking about the Dark Triad today. Were you friends with goth people or anything like that ever?
Yeah, a handful. None of them were hardcore. Oh, yeah. But no, they were friends for sure.
All right.
I'm thinking, a little bit of Hot Topic, some bracelets with spikes coming out of them, Korn shirts, Slipknot shirts, those kind of things. Yeah, I had a couple of those.
Okay.
What about you?
No, no, I'm trying to think. Not really. I kind of dated a girl a little bit recently that was a little bit
the wrestler
gothy. Yeah.
Was that part of the character?
Yeah, it was part of the character, but that she did dress gothy and stuff, and it was like, it's like, I like the other thing. It's kind of like tattoos for me on a lady, where it's just like, okay, you have tattoos. All right. Like, that does that do mean anything completely for neutral? Me, but like, it also isn't, I'm not running away because of a tattoo.
Completely neutral. Like, if you could pick tattoo or no tattoo, you wouldn't vote.
I'd pick no tattoo, I think. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
I don't really care that much about it either. But sometimes when I see someone with really cool tattoos, then I remember, and it's kind of like a genre of music you say you don't listen to, and then you hear a really good song of it. It's like, oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I guess it's just hard to have a good tattoo, and that's why they stand out, because sometimes guys especially will seem to just kind of get whatever, and sometimes you'll see someone with like a lot of tattoos. There's this guy I saw recently, kind of at the gym. He had a lot of tattoos, and at first I was just like, oh, cool, like lots of tattoo guy, all right. And then I looked closer, and every one of his tattoos was pure garbage. It was like,
give me a good one.
Truck stop merch level, like art.
Like the lady, like on the floor with the testicles, or what is truck stop merch?
Yeah. Just cheesy, boring, overdone, not very artistic. Just like, what did you just got? You got like an American flag, bald eagle, like all of these like cliche things, and then like a tattoo of a truck on there, and
truck's cool.
And then it says like mom on there, something like that.
On the truck? Nice. I want to get a tattoo that says mom on a truck. Or a picture of your mom on a truck. Your mom as a truck. That'd be weird.
What's that?
I got really drunk one night. I got my mom as a truck. The artist was very, very accommodating and nailed it on the first try.
Here's a picture of my mom. Can you turn her into a truck and put her on? Where do you put a mom truck? Probably on your back. No,
lower back. Yeah.
Lower.
I wonder what the state of lower back tats is, because early 2000s it was popular and then it became cringe, but who knows how many cycles of fashion it's gone through. It's probably gone out of style, back in style, ironic, super meta ironic, back to regular, cool.
I think it went from in style to very cringy to now it's okay. We're all accepting that you were just around in this period of time when people did that, and that's fine. You didn't want to be the person that got the fresh one at the end of the, like, at peak cringe of it.
Yeah. Who knows when the stock plummets? Just as it's drying, you see the little graph trend all the way down. It's worth nothing now.
So we're going to be talking about the Dark Triad today, which is the cluster of psychopathy, Machiavellianism, and narcissism,
all named after human beings. Narcissism is named after Narcissus, the Greek hero. Machiavellianism is named after like Antonio Machiavelli, the Italian guy that either exhibited that behavior or wrote about it and didn't exhibit it. And then psychopathos, the Greek god of psychopathy.
Yeah, Machiavellianism is probably, I would say, if you had to bet, you would say probably the least number of people would be familiar with what that means, right?
Yeah, it kept changing it to, I wrote it in my phone, and it kept changing it to macho villain instead of
Machiavellian.
Machiavellian. My phone just kept wanting to change it into macho villain.
It's not something you see tossed around much. I see scientists say it, and then it gets discussed. It gets discussed in like Wall Street and stuff. But that's the psychopathy. I think the probably like the quickest explanation of the Dark Triad is psychopathy is kind of numb to anyone else's feelings or whatever. Neuroticism is the ego.
Narcissism.
Narcissism is the ego. Everyone look at me. And then Machiavellianism is the sneaky,
the puppet
master. And yeah,
I want to apply the, what is it? The Occam's razor, is that it? The dividing it into the smallest possible thing. Do any of those possibly root out of the other? Like, is psychopathy the root of Machiavellianism and narcissism?
I think some of the Dark Triad, I believe, is something that, so first of all, this is a special episode because we're going to take this test. Neither of us are experts on the Dark Triad. You'll get to find out along and think through it with us. And then in the future, so it's something that I've never had, even though we do tons of like brain psychology type stuff on Here We Are, I've never had anyone on talking about any of the three in particular, I don't think. And so I wouldn't say that I'm very knowledgeable about any of them. So we'll get to do this episode, and then in the future we'll do an episode about each individual one, because you can also do like more involved tests for each one to find out if you're a narcissist or whatever as well. But this test tests all three at the same time and tells you where they fall. So I believe the Dark Triad was developed like a decade ago or less, so it's relatively new. And there's
2012
talk that these things are always changing and shifting. Now there's a Dark Quad that came out that added sadism to it, which is like liking to hurt people and liking seeing people's pain, which is a whole other thing. And then there's also, now that positive psychology is booming, there's the Light Triad that is that's coming out.
Boring.
Yeah.
Kindness, perseverity, selflessness, and open-heartedness. No, those are all kind of the same thing. So opposite of narcissism is only thinking of the whole, maybe not even just thinking of only other, because that's still kind of hurting yourself, but like thinking of the whole picture.
Yeah, I would say so it goes empathy, compassion, and altruism for the Light Triad. So empathy and sympathy are two that people screw up, and I know took me at some stage of development, took me a while to tease apart, which is empathy is the ability to understand the context, the contents of someone else's mind, the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Whereas compassion or sympathy is like feeling for someone, not necessarily understanding where they're coming from.
I thought empathy was feeling it.
No. Well, empathy is feeling the same thing that they're feeling.
Yeah.
Sympathy is feeling bad for what they're feeling, not necessarily feeling it yourself.
Gotcha.
So sometimes when people are like, I'm an empath. Oh, I'm an empath, so it makes me sad when you're a sad thing or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure you do get what's going on in my mind.
Have you talked to an actual, I mean, not to make a distinction between people that say they are, but there's a field of study called, like, there's people who are professional empaths, and they, like, just by sitting near you, they'll say like, okay, I'm feeling in your stomach a lot of like tension. I feel like you're holding in a lot of anger. I think that you're not expressing your anger. Like, this might not be true, but this is what I'm picking up from you as I drop in. That's what they say. I'm going to drop into you really quick. And then there's the people that, you know, just say that everything, they feel it all around them, which there's something to that. I don't know if it's to the level of predictability where they can be like, you're feeling it right in your lower rib, but there's something to the people that drop in. Have you ever gone into that world?
Yeah. I mean, I've spent enough time like around the psychedelic community and everything, and have done enough psychedelics to be like, am I you? Are you me? Are we the same? This, especially MDMA gets some real telepathic vibes going big time, where like I'll play the game Code Names on MDMA, which I highly recommend. And I'm like, I can read what the other person is thinking right now. Probably can't better than normal, but it sure feels that way.
And maybe the feeling, it does give you an edge.
Yeah.
The confidence edge.
Yeah, that's an important point. So yeah, I would say the opposite of being a narcissist is being empathetic and thinking about others, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and then sympathetic and compassionate would be the opposite of psychopathy, and then altruism would be the opposite of Machiavellianism. Yeah, actively planning out good things.
Yeah, manipulating in a good way. I'm going to throw a surprise party for everyone, but only the people that like surprise parties.
Which Machiavelli, so I guess he had a famous book called The Prince or something like that, and it was basically advice for princes that like were bestowed all of this power, and here's how you can wield it for the greatest good, and sometimes you have to be a bastard for the greater good of this and that, and it was a lot of the ends justify the means sort of thing. And when you do need to conquer a region, like just crush them, just wipe them out. It's for their own good if you just wipe out a region fast, rip that Band-Aid off of that region, and because you don't want like their family, you don't want to just like kind of hurt people because they'll come back with a vengeance and that sort of stuff. I mean, again, all philosophy that happened before, like the scientific method and Darwinian logic, should be taken with a bit of caution. I think if you're sitting around,
sounds good.
Maybe, I don't know. I think if you're sitting around 500 years ago and only examining the people in charge and looking at what traits they possess and what does and does not work or whatever, I mean, there's you're and you don't know about things like the negativity bias or contrast effect, he was probably picking up on more. Because there's a lot of these dark triad traits that happen. I think like psychopathy is in something like some small percent, like only 1% or something like that of the population, like full psychopaths. But in the prison population, it's higher. And also CEOs and things like that happen to have a higher percentage. But even that's like 20%, 30%. So it's still the majority of them aren't psychopaths.
Yeah.
You know, so but that would stick out to you. And you'd be like, maybe they're on to something with this being a total psycho thing. Seems to work out for them, but really they just inherited this role. And that probably does something to you when you're just born a future king. That probably fucks with your head a little bit. I don't know. Oh,
yeah. We see it with kid celebrities and stuff like that, too.
Yeah.
Just how much control can you have over what you're born into power wise, and would you really just relinquish it? Of course you're gonna get like more and more power if you don't learn.
Yeah.
But have you seen that chart of, I think most people are mapped towards the light side of the force, and then the edge of the dark side, it's like kind of half as much. Like most people are kind of towards the altruistic side, and then you've got some sociopaths, and then you've got the people at the tail end, like the most light side person and the most dark side one. But I'm wondering if it's more like we all have it within us, but it's which one manifests most often, because there are times where we all wish pain on someone. We wish we're only thinking of ourselves. We're what's the other one? I already forgot. Being psycho, acting impulsively.
Plotting, yeah, conniving. Yeah, that's I mean that's why there's a spectrum. Like it's not, we're not going to take this questionnaire and like have a little bit or like find ourselves average or whatever, and that means you're a psychopath. It's like it's not good to never like advocate for yourself or to just
doormatism.
Yeah.
But do you think that that's accurate, that most people are light side? I choose to believe that, but I'm wondering if this is all just test results. And of course, sociopaths are going to be like, yeah, I'm totally light side like you guys.
Yeah.
They let me in the area. And now I'm going to really cause damage.
There's all sorts of troubles with self-report tests, and especially it's also, who knows how many people taking these are college age kids. So stages of development matter a great deal as well. Like if you're a freshman male, you're probably a fucking psycho compared to a 20-year-old Shane was a fucking psycho compared to 42-year-old Shane, like without a question. And things like narcissism is narcissism is the default state that you're born into, that
not
you
me. I don't have a mirror.
Slowly grow out of. I mean, you're born the center of your own reality. It's through learning that you realize that you're not the center of things. And even that's a tricky thing to remember. Even when you're intellectually mindful of it, it's like, it's hard to remember that, like, oh yeah, this is just my perception right now, and the universe doesn't revolve around me. The default perception is you finding yourself at the middle of your reality, the reality that you know better than anything. And
yeah, the rest of it is all just machinery to serve you.
Yeah.
And then hard lesson after hard lesson, you learn otherwise. But maybe it's not all the way there for, I mean, this probably sounds obvious, but immediately it's that. But I think even once you're at 2, even you're a terrible 2, you've kind of figured out that no, you can be, they're sweet 2-year-olds. Most of the time they're sweet and good natured and share and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. But it's still, there is still narcissism tends to diminish with age, just in the average population. And it's I mean, even if you, I mean, look at every religion and stories told through time and human guidance or religiosity or whatever is just like, hey, look, I'm a human. So first you go like, oh, there's other humans. Well, they're important too. In fact, the most important. So like, I get that I'm not the most important thing, but humans definitely are. And I'm a little more important than a lot of other humans, especially ones in other tribes and things like that. And then when you think like bigger than this world, you think, there's probably something, I could see something being more powerful and intelligent than me. But if there is, they probably spend much of their time concerned with me, watching me, making sure I'm following this and that rule, punishing others for not being more like me. And so it's like, it's all through egocentrism's like that's the biggest cognitive bias there is, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's the centerpiece of the big wedding table that is your life.
It really is.
The big bouquet for you, me. Whether you're loving yourself or hating yourself, as we've talked before, like, yeah, thinking you're the worst is equally as egoic as saying, oh, I'm the fucking shit, I'm the best, I'm the GOAT.
Yeah. So I wish I knew more about like what the difference is between a vulnerable and a grandiose narcissist, because that's two different dimensions that we should talk about in a narcissism episode sometime. Off the top of my head,
someone will correct it. We got to take advantage of our correctors. We got to say it extra wrong. So it like really, people love correcting wrong stuff. I'm sure you've seen that new joke that's always on Twitter where people say like Netflix or, CNN lost $300 million making CNN Plus. They could have given every American $1 million for that money. And then the replies are just, oh, do the math. They could have given them 80 cents, but the person posting it clearly knows that's fake, but it's just so wrong that people love to jump in. And, or funny. Elon Musk could give everyone $1 billion. Instead, he wants to buy Twitter.
Yeah. Everyone $1 billion. Give 1 billion people $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, grandiose, I guess I would have a better handle on, which is just like a very flamboyantly center of attention. Think you're like the best person on earth, but like loud and extroverted about it, and usually probably like can't like some people are like, oh man, that person just they brush off haters or something. It's like, no, they don't feel them. They can't internalize it. They just like any criticism they cannot be aware of. They just are not aware enough to take criticism. They're just the T1000 fucking it's just liquid metal that you just shot right through. Like they didn't feel it. Like they don't even know that it's a thing that they should take in. And vulnerable narcissism, I think, is taking it in a lot more and more thinking you deserve like a bigger position.
What about this?
Life.
Which is this? Like, if I have the thought that, oh, I'll never be that successful because I'm not that big of a sociopath, and everyone that's a super success is a sociopath, is that not also a form of like vulnerable mixed with it's grandiose narcissism? Because it's still like, I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not bad like them.
Yeah. There's something like that going. It is tricky because you look at someone like Donald Trump, who is like the archetype of a narcissist, whether you think he's like good or bad, or like
Fine,
maybe that's
we'll do
what
the
it
Trump.
takes to
We'll do the impression. He's the biggest.
Yeah, narcissists taking this scale would accept. They'd be like, I'm the darkest. I'm the best at
Huge.
and there's yeah. So, but it's hard to tell. You would think he defaults to grandiose narcissists, but some people speculate that it's because he's like a vulnerable child or whatever on the inside and has this guard up. There's definitely, usually with like extreme narcissism, there's usually some sort of like developmental, I shouldn't say usually, there's sometimes some developmental stunting that went on because narcissism is like a thing that we just typically grow out of through life experience and through seeing more things and meeting more people and such.
But not rare either, because it's weird that I do that too. Like you want to say usually or a lot of the times, because starting something with sometimes is this. It's like, well, yeah, sometimes everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes isn't that interesting of a sentence. But when you say usually, it's like, ooh, you learned something.
Yeah.
But it might not be true. So it's tough to always
I would say often.
say usually.
I'm not sure
often.
if it's more than 50% though. I'm not.
You know what a great line is? It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
To say, it's not uncommon for people to have experienced, developmental catastrophe to develop grandiose narcissism. It's like, wait, it's pretty rare. I said it's not uncommon.
Yeah. So like if we take the test, just because of the nature of our jobs and making ourselves the center of attention in lots of things, we're going to rate higher in some things, in the same way that, I'm an introvert in normal life, and then I get on stage or record a thing and I'm extremely extroverted. So when I take the big 5 personality scale, like we did last year, I'm smack dab in the middle. So like context dependent is everything, but a true narcissist wouldn't correct, like they don't correct a thing. Like they were right in the way that they phrased things was right, even if they say like a word that doesn't mean it in the way that they'll be like, but if the word should mean that, and that's how it's used in other ways, and things are like, like Trump couldn't be like, you know what, guys, that test that I was bragging about doing really well on, it was a dementia test. And like he just couldn't do that.
Maybe that'll win him the second term. Like he goes the opposite direction, and then it's like, whoa, this is fresh. And then everyone's like, no, he's tricking you. He figured it out. He figured out another way to get in.
Instead, there's a global pandemic. There's all sorts of protests, riots, whatever word you want to use. There's a lot of stuff going on. And it was not an
uneventful year.
2 weeks going, no, it was a hard test. It was people, camera, woman. And I remembered, like, he spent about 2 weeks defending that. That's like classic narcissism. You just can't, you couldn't, it's impossible for you to be wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's so that, I mean, everyone's tired of hearing about him, and maybe they're not, because we've had a little bit of a break, but I can't help but wonder, like, is it that big of narcissism, or is it the manipulation to use that as the character? It's probably both. It's probably like there's a little self-awareness and playing it up, but he's also truly that, but not oblivious to it. Like, yeah, I know this is how I am, but I've figured out that playing this is going to get me attention, and this group of people is going to be on my side, and all I need is this certain section of a population to win.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like more Machiavellian, if you were plotting and being like, and here's how I get I think he just accepted any group of people that was on board with whatever, and then was like, they liked when I said that, so I said it more. Like he would even say that. Like when he was like, drain the swamp. We say drain the swamp now. There's a great clip of him saying it. He's like, first time they said drain the swamp to me backstage, I was like, that sounds kind of corny. And I came out, I said, drain. I know.
Who's the swamp?
And
the swamp is the balls, man.
And I said, drain the swamp, and people clapped. And so we say drain the swamp now, as his own fans were like, huh? Like, I thought you just like meant that stuff, you know? So like Machiavellian person wouldn't tell someone that. That would be a sinister, like calculating, oh, let's say drain the swamp, and we don't mean it, but we ran the test. We'll say, like, he was just very open. Like, people love this, and people love me when I say it. So, hey, I love when people love me, and I love the people that love me. And so, yeah, that to me,
unless he is playing 8D chess, and then it's like, no, I only did that because you thought that I would do that, and you thought that I wouldn't do what I thought that you would thought. But if you,
in that case,
as soon as you start
incredible.
talking about, as soon as you start talking about 8D chess, it's like all logic goes out the window. You can just defend anything. It's like they're playing the 100-year for 8D chess thing. Yeah. Of course, they're screwing it up for the next 10 years. It's all for the master plan to unveil itself in 11 years.
Right. Yeah, people love a good prophecy.
That should be a Mind Under Matter board game. Not the first one, but maybe like the 8th game that we make will be 8D chess.
I love that idea. I love that idea.
And then anytime someone is talking about, like, you know, Scott Adams is playing 8D chess or something, then we can be like, oh, he plugged our new hit game from Mattel. And it's not even by Mattel. Mattel like has gone out of business already, but we still call it from Mattel.
That's part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the weird thing with Machiavellianism stuff is there are, if you think about doing a live comedy show, and you just like lie to people and coax them into sitting in front because you know their experience will be better, and you don't want to sit around arguing with people about like, no, we got to fill the front if everyone's just sitting in the back because everyone is too worried about getting picked on or whatever. Then there's just this huge space between the comic and the audience, and the whole audience doesn't have as good of a time. The comedian will be off, and you don't want to sit there explaining that to the 200 people that come in or whatever. So you just say like, oh, those seats are reserved, and do like. So there's a fine line between like what is like just a little white lie that's helping curate an experience for people.
Yeah.
And like there's all sorts of good marketing. And it's like, if you like this, you would like this other thing. That's like, in some cases, yes. Like I do want to see things that I would like. And I do want, sometimes I'm in the market for a thing, and I would love to be presented with the perfect solution for that thing that I'm after. And sometimes it takes a slick website and some razzle dazzle and algorithm, this and that. And so that's a tough one to tease apart too.
Yeah. And it's easy to think that, well, I've gotten all those ads and I bought all that stuff and I'm not happy, so it's bad. But you don't know how much unhappier you would have been if you didn't have the bidet or that wall calendar or that light that projects laser dots on your ceiling.
Yeah. You just also, it wasn't that didn't make you happy. It's that you habituated to the happiness that it brought you, as you will habituate to everything good and bad in life. That's what we do. So yeah, I guess there's talk that Machiavellianism and psychopathy are like so similar that they shouldn't be pulled apart so much, but I don't know.
One is narcissism is me, and then psychopathy is I don't care about anyone else's feelings, and then Machiavellianism is I don't care about anyone else's feelings as long as I'm getting what I want by placing them in the right configuration. There's something to it. One is like an active thing, and the other two are more of like your default feeling.
Yeah, I think psychopaths often have abnormalities, like neurologic abnormalities. Like some of them, a lot of people on death row have had a head injury at some stage of life that makes them incapable of like feeling, understanding that they're hurting another person or whatever when they do things. So yeah, psychopathy is defined by the telltale sign of shallow emotional responses. So I could expand on that if we want, but Machiavellianism is the character by duplicitous interpersonal style, a cynical disregard for morality, and a focus on self-interest and personal gain. And then narcissism is an egotistical interest in or admiration of one's self. So
nice. We're 2 out of the 3, baby. We don't want to cause harm to people, but we're doing a show about us, and we're throwing a festival camp out. So psychopathy and narcissism, we got them.
Yeah, but no bad feelings. I would say throwing a festival is more Machiavellian, if anything, of like, well, what kind of things do you? Because it's like if you want people to like have a good time, sometimes they need like a little white lie to get someone to try stand-up paddleboarding for the first time or something like that. People just need a little bit of, dismissing of the risk or whatever. And like there's this guy, this guy that runs shows at Dallas Hyenas Comedy Club. I wish I could remember his name, but he's a funny dude, and he's a comic, but he's like this short little guy, but he manages a lot of the stage stuff. And when people are talking in the show, which is the biggest, people are like, are you worried about hecklers and this and that? No, I'm worried about people being on their phones. I'm worried about people breaking off into conversation. A lot of times they don't even mean anything by it. They just don't even realize they're being loud, and it's distracting to others. And he just goes by people. He's like, "Oh, hey, actually, there's microphones in the ceiling. They're recording an album. So just so you know." And then just walks away before they can say anything. Before they can. So that's not the truth. There's not a microphone above them. But if you come up to those people and be like, hey, you're being a little loud and it's interrupting the show, people go, I was just, and now they're having a whole fucking argument about, was I being loud? I wasn't being that loud. And now they're louder about having this fucking debate about how loud they were being. And now it's ruining the whole fucking show for everybody. So is it like exactly honest that guy does that? No.
Everyone should do that.
That he does that? Absolutely. That's good. That was good for those people. That was good for him. That was good for the audience. That was good for the comic. There was not a single person in that room that was bad for. Not a single person.
I agree. It should be done. They should do it to Earth. They should have him go around to everyone on Earth and say, this is being taped for an intergalactic special. The microphones can pick everything up. Those aren't all satellites. Some of them are directional omni microphones. So you want to just keep it down, because if you say like personal things or your racial slurs that I just heard earlier, it'll broadcast out there.
He just walks around.
The whole Earth.
Forrest Gumps around the country with that spiel.
I'm surprised I'd never heard that. That's so brilliant.
So
say that when it's not happening. And maybe sometimes it does happen, but most of the time people aren't taping at Hyenas. Or maybe they do. Hyenas is good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have, I mean, I'm all for things like that help everyone involved curate a better experience. It's like even narcissism, to be on stage, it's like, well, I actually find all of this like fairly embarrassing, to like be in front of a spotlight. Listen to me. Isn't what I'm saying very special? But also, I want people to have a nice time. And part of doing that is walking out from behind a curtain. Like, people don't know it's just a fucking storage closet back there with a mop. They think it's a fucking champagne room or something like that. And that helps their experience to know that. Like,
I told you about Mitch Horowitz, right?
Bit.
The Mitch Horowitz story of I went to go see him talk, and then he comes out of a room and he's like all sweaty. And then it turns out he was standing exactly in a very small janitor's closet to the side of the stage. It was like, I thought this would only be a few minutes and it was less hot than it was. And turns out I was wrong and I should have just walked up from the audience instead of trying to create some kind of mystery, which is what we're here to talk about today.
That's amazing.
And I applauded the commitment. It's like, damn, he was in the janitor's closet for the last 15 minutes, just sweating his ass off.
Yeah. So like when I do that, I'm not doing that for me. Like, I'm not doing that to stroke my own ego or like whatever else. I'm doing it because it facilitates the experience. You know, that's all.
How much is a helicopter? What if we came in on a helicopter for Mumfest? Well, we spent 80% of our budget for this entrance and only 6 people saw it. Everyone else's back was turned or they were at the other side of the campground.
We should wear like get suspenders that have just a rope like in front of us, like you and I just wear a rope that people, so we look really important. We just have the VIP rope on suspenders. That's not a bad look.
Hell yeah.
Crap, now we probably have to commit to that. All right, you want to find out, do you have guesses
to how far I rank?
Yeah, where like what do you think's your most biggest piece of shit quality?
Narcissism is probably the highest rated. Psychopathy is second, and then Machiavellianism. I don't think I have much of that, although it can be triggered in me if it's the right, you see, well, this guy mowed down like a group of 12 4-year-olds, premeditated. We found the blueprints and everything, and his amygdala wasn't even small. He had a big one, so he just wanted to violence those kids. You're like, oh, I hope he gets 6 death penalties. I just want him to have. I hope they invent a new kind of death penalty that keeps you alive while you're being shot by a firing squad. Yeah, and they electrocute you and inject you, and then 2 hours later, you're like, well, I don't know. How am I any better than if I want to inflict pain? I would rather reform people. I want people to be normal. But yeah, there's, of course, you wish, or someone cuts you off in traffic. Maybe they don't mow down a bunch of 4-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing with aggression and anger is like it did evolve for a reason. And sometimes, I mean, you want people to know that there's a social cost in behaving in an antisocial
I love calling
way.
it a social cost.
Yeah.
Like you're about to pull the electric chair lever. Social cost.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all very tricky. I'm not against the death penalty. Personally.
Where do you think you stand?
I think
I'm
the same. I think I'm mostly a narcissist, maybe vulnerable narcissist. I would have to be vulnerable. Well, no. I don't know. And then I need to know more about the difference between those two, which I don't. And then, boy, I used to be a real psycho, I would say, like just void of feeling. Now I got all sorts of feelings these days. I would say
Nice.
way less
Congrats.
psycho. And Machiavellian. It's just, I just don't resonate with that. The 4D, this and that. Like, give me a fucking break. It's whatever fucking plotting that you think that you're doing that's so cunning or whatever. I don't even think it works anyway. Like, it maybe works in a short side. You know, there's different, you know, in game theory or whatever, when they have people have strategy games and things where you can punish people or you can take more of the prize or not offer as much to the stranger or whatever. There's different strategies depending on if you're having one interaction with that person or whether these are going to be continued interactions, you know.
Oh, of
And
course.
if they're going to be continued interactions, cooperation wins every time. And so, you know, unless you're like unless you're trying to do some fly by night thing, like it's like the point is it might not even be like because of the purity of my heart or whatever that I try to be cooperative. It might just be the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
deterrence. Is it you don't steal because it's wrong, or you're not stealing because you know that there's consequences for getting caught?
Mm-hmm.
And most people, it's like a little mix of both, depending on the scale of things.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's find out.
But also, I think I'm mostly light side.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, probably everyone wants to say that about themselves, but no, I think we're.
I don't know. I've heard some
we're the
people say
light
this
boys.
is a long time ago, but people who have said like, yeah, you know what? I just realized I don't care about anything but this right here. I've heard people say something to the note of that with that gesture and everything, and that's going to be a 20-year-old something. But some people have it in their 30s, 40s, die with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's like some people would call it libertarian or assign value to that of like, you got to pull up your bootstraps and you got to do this and rise to the top and be king of the mountain. And I think those are all outdated tendencies that don't work that well in a modern world, except in...
Actually, that is not what libertarians believe. Libertarians are rather more altruistic than a lot of people that believe in communism or socialism. As a matter of fact, in a libertarian community, the charitable donations due to free market capital gains are 3 times what you'd see in somewhere like Sweden, Venezuela, or even in the Roman Empire. So,
wow.
No, but libertarians are so good at debating. I think they don't even care about libertarianism as much as debate.
Yeah.
I think that's what the main thing about libertarianism is.
Yeah, that's
like what we
really
said with
good
polyamory.
observation.
It's not about sex. It's about group text.
That's very funny. Huh. I like that. All right, let's get into it. Question number 1 on the Dark Triad will include this link, by the way, so you might want to pause, take this test. It's on idrlabs.com. Actually, there's a bunch of tests on there. I just found this site and there's a bunch of cool stuff. And it's a lot less sciencey and clunky than a lot of the things that I find, with retaining most of the credibility. And so this is...
And props to that website for putting tests.php at the end. When's the last time you saw a website that had a something.php or something.html? It takes you back.
It does.
Most people hide their URLs, have clean URLs.
So the
These are
traditional
dirty
one,
URLs.
if you want to do like the real old school, developed by scientists, used by scientists everywhere, the short Dark Triad test is the one to go. It's only a few less questions than this. It's just that this idrlabs.com decided to like add their own little spin on tests, but I looked at all of the questions and they're not too far off. So, and also when you take a test like this and you see like, oh, I'm super Machiavellian or something like that, maybe I should embrace that and start stealing from things. I would say that again, as we've said with every one of these self-reports, they're more accurate within large groups of people than they are in like providing a clinical diagnosis to a given individual. And some of this stuff just depends on the mood that you're in that day. A lot of it would depend on what others would say about you as well, because you might be oblivious to this or that, or you might be too hard on yourself about something or other. So take it with a grain of salt. It's just for funsies. So are you ready? Have you paused? Have you taken the test? All right. Suit yourself. I am
Welcome back.
I'm egocentric.
Oh, we've already started.
This is number 1 of 36.
I didn't know you said beginning now. You just go, I am egocentric. And I'm like, yep, sounds right. Okay, you're asking me, am I egocentric? And then it's a scale of the 7, like strongly disagree to agree. Strongly agree to strongly disagree. What do
Yeah. There's a neutral, then agree to strongly agree. Yeah.
Gotta go Newt. Gotta go Newt Gingrich on that one.
Yeah. All right. We'll put you down for Newt Gingrich.
Gotta go Isaac Newton on that.
I would say that I'm the same. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I've spent a good deal of time trying to understand how the mind works and how other people's brains work. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm just a primate on this earth. I spend more time than the average bear thinking about how I'm
the
just
bear
a
thinking
dumb
it's a primate
monkey. Yeah. I spend more time than the average bear thinking about how I'm just a dumb bear and it doesn't really matter and it's not that big a deal. It's just a thing that I'm experiencing.
Me too.
So,
and I'm also an 8-dimensional alien god source
that's
fragment.
awesome.
So both.
You got it both.
Yeah, I'm a god fragment on one side, and then I'm dumb monkey, and actually dumb monkey in the middle, and then I'm nothingness on the other side.
Yeah. I put myself lower on egocentrism, but look at what I do for work. I mean, that's just not being aware.
Yeah, we both have multiple social media accounts and are thinking like, how do I get another account on this platform and raise the followers of that, even though I'm already active on 18 different social networks.
I already know that I'm interesting and important, but how do I get more people to see it? Most people are lazy and don't work hard unless they have to.
Disagree.
I think I'm gonna do a neutral. I want to say disagree. I'm definitely not an agree. But I think that, like, I consider myself lazy. I think that we operate by defaults a lot, and most of us are on autopilot. Even if it's like that person worked 12 hours today in the factory or whatever, and that's really hard work, I still think it was just a default
for the bread
on some level. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think a lot of people have aspirations, though, even if they don't know what it is. But I think most people would rather do than just lay in bed and watch TV. Even if they are currently laying in bed watching TV, I don't think that's the state they're right. aiming to be at. I think they don't like that they're doing that for the most part and would rather be helping or growing some career or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. Next one is, oh, come on. This site is hopefully going to let me do multiple at the same time.
They should make a test mixed, like, because that site has this test. It also has a Winnie the Pooh test. It has the Kinsey scale test. Like, they should mix it into one, like, trail mix test. And then one question is about Harry Potter. And then another one is serious psychopathy
just
stuff.
All of the questions. Yeah. Okay. I use insincere flattery to get my way.
Disagree.
Okie doke. Whoops. I'm strongly disagree. I would say that I do not kiss anyone's ass. I could do with being more flattering to people. I would say I will tell people when I feel like they aren't doing things correctly. I could use more of that. I'm a strongly disagree. All right, fourth question. I fantasize about extraordinary prestige or status.
Oh yeah. I don't live in this reality at all. I'm only fantasizing about that, and then I'm here just enough to like get the bills paid and like go to the bathroom and shower and eat and stuff. But I'm definitely not in the present. I'm thinking like, how come I don't have a swimming pool right now? And how come there's people not taking photos of me, and I'm trying to hide from the people taking photos of me in my swimming pool with my big Johnny Cage sunglasses?
I would say that I'm a regular agree.
Yeah, I was joking there a little, so I'm just regular agree.
You're just reg?
Yeah.
All right. I'll put you down for a regular one. That's fun. I feel like I got some of that out of my system. I feel like when I was
You've had the pool sunglasses?
Yeah, I just feel like I've got to travel and stay in luxury places and like be picked up in limos and do like weird stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of stupid. You know what I like still is traveling, seeing different cultures, and trying new foods. I like that. But anything like MTV Cribs, like rims on cars, anything peacocky is I just pointed to our new shirt, by the way, that we have on the Mum site.
MindUnderPod.com.
That I've been wearing every single day. Haven't taken it off.
Enter in code take it off to get a error code on the discount promo section of the thing. I promise if you enter it'll say this code is invalid or does not exist or has expired. Please try again. And then you can buy it for full price.
So yeah, I don't know. I think all that stuff is like a little cringy. And I remember having TV breaks and stuff when I was in my 20s and, you know, feeling like going and getting more like massages and special treatment sort of stuff. And I look back on that now. I'm like, well, you know, I got to experience that and that was nice. And now I just find it to be like sort of embarrassing. I
felt that too during it. Not that I've had like you're a more accomplished stand-up like in multiple ways, like content release, places traveled, accolades, that kind of thing. But the little bit of stuff I got, like when I'm on Late Show, when I'm seeing it go on everybody's feed, especially in 2011 or 12, when the algorithm didn't know how to condense it, where you just saw your face show up like for one day, everyone only sees that. I was like, oh no, that's a bit too much. I thought I said I wanted that, but I don't want that. That's a ridiculous amount of subjecting your image to the social media.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff, it can come along with like waiter blindness and stuff where you just like, I don't know. I think you just start thinking of yourself as too special or whatever, and it creates blind spots. Like we're probably going to do a Jordan Peterson 12 rules episode for Kicks one day. And I think like that's just a big part of what's happened. I think he's an accomplished scientist with a super high IQ and really verbally fluent. Sometimes he's not saying anything with super fancy words, but a lot of us do that, whatever. But I think like he got a little wrapped up in the fame of it, and
there's like, 7 dimensions in which I got wrapped up. So there's the part where I see myself as me, and then there's the part where it's like, what do you think about me? And then there's the third category, which is a whole other can of worms, and then there's another thing, and then you combine them, and it gets me so emotional. And then
so
more of that and more on the one where we read 12 rules for life, which 12 I mean, we'll expand on it later, but there's so much good stuff in there, and of course you can misinterpret every rule. But yeah, he said tons of great stuff, and of course when you're given your take on everything, like, you know, psychology, the environment, climate change, politics, everything, of course you're gonna seem silly a lot of the time, as we do. But
yeah, right. But all of that is to say is like, you throw enough fame and money at someone, and there's going to be, people seem to take advantage of that and live it up and go on that ride when it's available. And like, I get it, but it's also like, I think it's a little cringy. After you experience even a little bit of it, it's like, oh yeah, that's not what life's about. That's for sure. But
the ultimate would be having both.
Yeah.
It's tough though. But I don't know, like fame is kind of, the fame alone part is not necessarily good. It's got its perks, I'm sure, but for the most part, not having your privacy, when you really look at it, it's no good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not even just the no privacy part, but just the being a public person and what that means, and having millions or billions of people have their idea of who you are and loving you or hating you or something. Mm-hmm. It is a weird thing to be. Only 200 people should know about everyone. Yeah.
The Dunbar number.
Yeah.
All right. So I expect, question 5 is, I expect special favors from others.
Strongly disagree.
All right. I think that, am I a strongly disagree or just a regular disagree? Maybe I'll do a regular disagree.
What do you expect?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm owed anything or anything like that. I mean, I feel like I'm good at keeping tabs and that I will return. I'll do my best to like return those favors. So I'm like, oh, actually, if you help me out, I will like make good on that. So in that regard, it's like, that will be in your interest to do me a special favor, perhaps. So I'll just put a regular disagree just to
spicing it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna err toward the side of like trying to keep myself honest, making sure I just don't because if I do that, it's something that I wouldn't like to do.
Yeah, and I'm proud of ourselves for this episode not being wishy-washy, because in past survey episodes, sometimes we've been like, maybe I'm strongly just, maybe I'm neutral, and then 10 minutes goes by, and then meanwhile the listeners are like, unsubscribe, 1 star.
I don't know. We did a focus group and we asked specifically about the surveys, and some people said that, but others said they liked hearing us hash it out. I think that we be ourselves. That's what I vote for, because
like Chris Cornell said in that Audio Slave song.
Yeah, that's all you can do. No, what's the rest of the lyrics? I don't remember.
I think that is the whole thing.
I misled people so as to look better in their eyes.
What did that first thing? I miss people better. I heard the eyes part.
I
but
mislead people. Sorry. I mislead people so I can look better in their eyes. Misled people.
I thought it was talking about looking people in their eyes, and I was about to go like strongly agree. I used to not, and then somewhere around 17, because a friend of mine was like, you don't look at people in the eyes, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of playfully, like kind of pointing out like, oh, you're a shy boy, huh?
Yeah.
Then after that, I was like, that's not true. And then I just like looked her right in the eyes, but then did the thing where you look away sometimes to do that. And then from then on, I'm like, I'm not going to do the look in the corner thing anymore. It was great for Mitch Hedberg, and Jesse Elias does it well. And there's people that's part of their vibe. Not that if they changed it, they would suck, but it's just like, it's cool that they don't do that. It's a nice little quirk, but I'm like, I'm going to be a look in the eye person. I like to look people in the eyes.
Yeah.
You make the connection better. And, I'm sure some deeply, like with physical touch, we probably like eye contact at some deep primal level. It helps connect, but not to mislead.
No.
I don't mislead so that they see me better in their eyes. But let's see when I would do that. No, I don't think so. I think I'm an honest honorb.
So you're disagree or strongly disagree?
Strongly disagree.
I think
will
I'm
not mislead my leader.
Disagree too. I think that I like looking good in people's eyes by not misleading them. Like, that's my shtick. I like being honest and self-aware and trying to figure out things that I'm thinking about in the wrong way. And that's one of my biggest insecurities when I started Here We Are was how wrong I was about everything all of the time. And it's still scary to talk to someone that's like an expert in the field. But now it's my favorite thing of the show is people get to hear how wrong and flawed I am. And like sometimes I'm a little like, what do you think about this? Sometimes I'm like, oh, you could use a little more confidence. Just ask that fucking question and get it over with. But
that's the contrast. That's the beauty of Here We Are is that it's not so much contrast that you're just this bumbling idiot and then you have someone really expertise, because then there wouldn't be the bond, but it's like a very curious person that's learning from episode to episode, trying to retain as much as they physically can and asking questions fearlessly. For the most part.
That's the hope, is that I would never come off as I can listen to all the stuff that I know. Don't I look great? That's my shtick to look good, is to not be the person that does things to look good.
Yeah. 9D chest. That's another D on the chest. D chest.
Question 7. I deserve to have great recognition, acknowledgement, and success come my way.
Yeah, agree.
Sure. I think that I'm at least a regular agree, maybe even a strongly agree. You know what? I'll throw myself a strongly agree because under normal circumstances, I wouldn't think this, but I think that both of us, having pursued a path less traveled, that's a hard thing to do. You don't even realize how hard it is until you're a decade or nearly 2 into it. And you're like, oh my God, this is... I could no wonder most comics don't get known till they've been doing it for 20 years or whatever. It takes a super long time to get good.
And you can't see your greenness.
Yeah.
Like whether it's with your visual art, your music, your stand-up, like you think that it's great and you don't know until many years later that like, look how green I was. I was so green, and I thought that I looked at everything. I thought I had no blind spots, and now it's like, oh, I was mostly made of blind spots.
Yeah.
And that's still happening until it starts trending downwards, because, you know, careers, you have your prime, you make your best stuff, which I think we're in that now. We're not in the peak of the prime, but I think generally we're like in our prime somehow. Like maybe we've got 10, 15 years of it, who knows? And then then it'll start to, okay, it's not as good as it was back in the early 2020s, but
yeah, I think we're entering our prime.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, I actually find myself thinking about like, oh man, when I'm 50, I'll know so much more stuff and I'll be able to have my thoughts more organized and be able to say, I have a lot of things that are important to me that I would like to share with others, that it's still sort of messy and I haven't figured out all of how to organize it all and present it in just the right way. And hopefully that will keep on coming along. And
or you'll just be more wise. You'll be more wise and you'll know that knowledge is something that is like, you can never retain all the knowledge, and so much of it is, you know, subjective, and the world also changes to the point where maybe certain knowledge is not important because it's been offloaded into the computer and stuff. So it's like, oh, I spent all that year learning neuroscience, and now anyone can just answer anything and understand anything about neuroscience because of Neuralink 8.BQ.
Yeah. I mean, I could stand to work harder. So, you know, if things don't go my way in life, it's like, I don't think it's anyone else's fault. But one thing that's like narcissistic about me is that I'm definitely like, why aren't more people into the things that I'm into? Because the stuff that I'm into, more people should be into, and it's important. Like, we wouldn't be able to fly and things like that without science, and just no one seems to give a shit. Like, I love, like, to me, I would rather I'd rather have some scientist on Here We Are that's never done a podcast before that no one was ever going to hear about otherwise, than to like meet some actor in a bar that was like on a CSI Miami thing. Like,
George Clooney directed that episode. What was that like? Is he the way he is in Ocean's 11 or No Country for Old Men, or is he like, what? Tell us more about working with him.
So I just tend to like, I don't like just general. I don't like stuff that everyone seems to like. And I'm just like, why do people spend so much time on that? Why do people care so much about football or whatever fucking dumb thing? I just don't get it. It doesn't add that much to your life, and it's
exactly on
on
episode 0, you said that, like, what do people like? And then I said something to the tune of like, not us. We're not what people like. We can get an audience, but we're not going to be what's it.
So I don't know. I think I'm narcissistic in that way, perhaps.
And you're right. People would be better off. And yes, we do need people to understand how this stuff works, or it'll be like, there's this very old Joe Rogan joke about like the humans built the pyramids. Just, you know how there's always more dumb people than there are smart people, and they're reproducing at a faster rate. Eventually, all the smart people don't pass on their smartness, and it's just left with dumb people and just going like, where did all this come from? Aliens? I guess came from aliens. I don't know. And like, we don't know how a microphone works, a cell phone works, all that kind of stuff, but we just use it, and it grows because other people are interested in doing it. But and then with it's like, no, everyone should listen to this music. Not necessarily, but everyone should understand how reality works a little bit better. But will they? No.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I was just thinking about Branson, Missouri today. It's just like this weird place. It's just full of every chain restaurant. And it's just for old, dumb people that have been dumb their whole life, and they're now old, and they're there. And it's just like, you go and you just like listen to some family band, you know, that's like awful. And it's like, that was nice. And I like nice things. It's like, but it was terrible. There's plenty of like nice things that are actually good. And you just like thinking that you're a nice person or something. I don't know. It's just,
that's crazy that you brought up Branson, Missouri, because it was part of this character that my friend would do. He's like the best at voices and characters, like of anyone I've known my whole life. And he just did this one character with these like really big glasses and his hair was messed up. And he just would just out of nowhere, he goes like, Branson, Missouri. And like built a whole character out of Branson, Missouri guy. And I just thought it was the best thing ever. And I didn't know what Branson was. I've never heard of it. Still never been. Have no idea what it's like, but I just associate it with that character that he does.
It's Yakov Smirnoff when he was this comic that decades ago was like, what a country. That was his whole shtick. You guys have this here. What a country. And people were like, listen to that foreigner who appreciates our country. And
in Soviet Union, car drive you.
and then the wall came down, and then like he lost popularity. For whatever reason, he became irrelevant. And
last I saw him, he was headlining Cap City talking about relationships the whole time.
Yeah, he's trying to do a new thing now. Like a positive psychology, this and that thing. And then he didn't know what to do, so he just moved. He was like, I need to go somewhere where people just don't know anything, what happened, where they're just like living in a bunker. And so he just went to Branson, Missouri. Started a show and became like the king of Branson.
When was this?
That's like until recently. Like he's just been there for 20 years, just crushing it. It's
Hell yeah. Like, his own Las Vegas.
Yeah. His own little Las Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
not that I want to be one of those people. Maybe I do want to be one of those people, but it's a great thing to affect the culture in such a way, even if it's seen as hacky later. Like you get a phrase that permeates everything. Like in Soviet Union, blank, blank's blank. And you might be a redneck if, or just the first rule of Fight Club to get a phrase to be so permeated everything. I mean, could Keep on Salivating Honey become that? Maybe Keep on Salivating Honey could be the next goodbye. And then instead of that in 2070 is like, people used to say goodbye instead of keep on salivating honeys.
I think you show up and it's like, oh, can you help me with this thing? And you go, oh yeah, too easy. And then people are like, all right, keep on salivating.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
So all right. Question 8 is, I despise people who can't control their emotions.
Disagree.
Yeah, despise people.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's comfortable. I wish it wasn't that case, but I mean, you can't despise them. Comfortable is fun. It's not like, great, finally you're here.
I mean, I would say sometimes the other, I mean, I guess it depends on what emotion, and people have been super angry the last several years.
Understandable.
But I would say that generally speaking, I would like to see more emotion. Certainly growing up, I was like, this is a mono emotion culture that I'm in. Just this Pleasantville, everyone looks the same, smiles the same, behaves the same, the exact same social cheer and pressure for that. And that's just as creepy as someone that has no control over.
That's a weird phrase too, because you can't really control your emotions because that's your internal state, but maybe it means don't let your emotions take the wheel, and like every emotion you feel has to be acted out physically in some way. Because Because you could hide it, like be angry, but then still have a smile on your face. But the anger is still circulating around there like it would be. And then you're not releasing it. So then it just bottles up and manifests in 10 years. Like the Bill Burr joke of, his wife being like, where is this coming from? Then he like goes into like, well, it's building up from until I'm walking around at an 8.
Yeah, right. All right, question 9. I have a grand sense of self-importance.
Neutral? No, disagree.
Disagree?
Disagree.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to put myself down for disagree as well. Yeah, I don't.
Importance? Like, I don't think much will change if I die. I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to jump in front of a bus or not take care of myself, except for energy drinks.
That's the thing. Like vulnerable narcissists tend to be like, well, the world's going to be a worse place when I'm not around, and that sort of thing. Or like you'll in relationships, it's like,
you mean better
can't
place,
do
right?
better than me. You'll miss me when I'm gone. That sort of thing. I've been just the opposite in every relationship where I'm just like, good for you. You go. Like every time after, I'm like, yeah, you deserve an upgrade. You could use an upgrade. You did your time. In fact, like one of the things with narcissism and other tests that I don't think is in this one is, do you like casual sex? And I was like, yeah, I actually do like casual, but I didn't at different stages in my life. I used to be like, and have a life partner or whatever. But it's also like, I've never been like a fuck boy of I've had nothing but positive casual relationships with every relationship that's gone bad for me has been because it was an actual relationship. In every one of those where I'm like, oh man, I feel bad about that one. Sure hurt. Wasted that girl's time, broke her heart, whatever. Every lady I've had a casual, I'm like, oh yeah, I can text her right now. Hey, I'm gonna be in Arizona. Let's meet up. Like that's all. Like any duration of time, I'm like, yeah, you don't need me around. If I pop in and out in your life, that's that I do.
But do you go into every next one thinking like, this time I'm not gonna do that thing? Or do you go in as the old you?
Yeah, the
like imagine your next relationship.
The last girl that I was like got sort of serious with she wanted to keep things more casual with me, and I thought that I was like committed to no more serious relationship for me. I've done too many of those. They don't work. God, I keep on like just moving in with the lady too fast, and it lasts for years. It lasts too long.
Yeah, take his keys so he doesn't give them to someone.
and then yeah, it didn't take long before I was like, I don't know. Well, if she wants to get married, I'd probably marry her. I never thought that before, but this one's special. This is different. Yeah, I just have I tend to gravitate to that. So that's the weird thing with all of these character traits, because narcissism is like, oh, someone that just wants sexual gratification or something like that as a narcissist, but also someone that like needs to hold on and like be attached to someone is also a narcissist. So I don't know. It's confusing what is and isn't narcissism sometimes.
I don't know how much of it is always narcissism, because you could certainly manipulating or not caring that your casual outlook is how it's affecting someone that maybe doesn't want to do the casual thing. But if it's two casual people together, then that's all
that
good.
Are in agreement. Everyone likes that. But yeah, if you were like, I can't wait to buy you a diamond ring, and then afterwards, like, never talk to them again. And that was just
a great line. That's not going to creep anybody out. This guy from the 50s is asking, he wants to buy a diamond ring. And I just said Netflix and chill.
And then So I had sex with him immediately with that killer line, and then never heard from him again. And, all right. Question 10 is I easily lose my temper.
Disagree.
Okay. I think I might be in agree on that one. I don't know. I have some road rage issues. I gotta be at least an agree on. My dad's a little temperamental too. I think I get it from him. And a super nice guy, but it just like bubbles up. I think he packs too much stuff down or something. But yeah, I guess it's like, it's embarrassing. I'll find, even at pickleball, I'll just find myself being like, you know, after plays, you know, throwing the ball to someone, they're walking back to serve or whatever, and the ball's coming at them, and I have to like tell them like, hey, ball coming or whatever, rather than them being around to catch it. It's nothing at all. And I just notice it bothering me. I'm like, why is that? It's like it's lack of empathy, because you can see something happening. You expect another person, even though their back's turned, to be able to know information that you have access to that they don't. That's a lack of empathy. So whenever that bubbles up, I get self-conscious about it. That's like something in development around the age of 3 or 4, where they'll do a thing where they'll have two kids in a room, and then one of the kids will leave. So say little
Trevor
Johnny
and Brent T. Okay, yeah. Johnny and Trevor. Trevor
leaves. Johnny's still there, and a scientist comes in and takes a rabbit, like a toy rabbit, that was in there when they were both in there. Trevor leaves, and then the scientist moves the toy rabbit and like puts it under a box or something like that and hides it somewhere, and then asks Johnny, like, hey, where will Trevor look for the rabbit? And usually at a certain age, before a certain age, Johnny will be like, oh, what do you mean? He'll look in the box where it is. But you have to get to be like 4 or 5 years old before you realize, oh, Trevor doesn't have access to that information. So why would Trevor make a beeline to exactly where the thing is when he doesn't know where it is, just because you saw it go somewhere? And so that's that default egocentrism again.
Unless he's the next Dalai Lama.
What's that?
Unless he's the next Dalai Lama, because they, present all these objects, and then if you pick the right objects, you're the reincarnation of the last.
Is that how they do it?
I'm pretty sure. That's maybe not the only thing, but it's one of the tests. So it's like 3 of these objects belong to the last Dalai Lama. Pick the 3 that are the ones, and then if you get those right, it's like, oh, it's him. He picked him.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to think we had a better system for anything, but I don't think that we do.
Well, I thought we could have used dice, but sure. This involves looking at nice objects. The dice might have given us an equal result.
But I get temperamental like that. I think I get short with people with the kind of the curse of knowledge stuff. Like when I know a thing, I expect other people to know it as well way too often, and get short with people when they don't. Yeah,
come on, you're using an ad hominem argument because you don't know about the availability heuristic, and you're using your cognitive dissonance to recombobulate your science.
That's something I could really use some work on, in patience and more understanding. All right, question 11. I have good relations with my family.
Yes.
Regular? Strongly agree.
Unless they're all talking shit right now.
I think that's our first strongly agree. And I think that I'm going to go with agree. I did not
right.
growing up.
You're closer with them right now physically, and then I'm very far from them physically right now. But even if I lived there, I think I would still have good relation to them.
I have a lot of the traits of a psychopath, which is like having gotten in like lots of trouble in the youth and having like disregard for laws and things like that. And I've been to jail, and psychopaths tend to like find themselves in jail a lot.
That's double entendre.
And yeah,
not sexually, but like you find yourself in jail, and I happen to find myself here in this jail.
Which is where I found myself. I found out who I was in the place that I found myself. So, but yeah, I feel like that was just lack of maturity.
And you clash, like, not in a war state, but I think, you know, your parents have more of maybe the religious thing, and you have way less of the religious thing. And then me and my family, like, we're kind of the same. Maybe I lean more mysticism just by curiosity, not by dogma. And then maybe they lean more science and less mysticism by that. But still, we've never had like these ideological, like, fundamental clash things. And I was a good boy too. I didn't really get into trouble. And also, as you get older, like, sometimes you're like, it kind of annoys me when my mom does this or something like that. And then you see other family dynamics. You're like, oh shit, we're top of the line.
Oh yeah.
Good here. We've got zero problems.
Lucky. Yeah. Absolutely. I would say that I am like, here's a good example. I don't care what my mom's hair looks like. She does, however, care deeply about what mine does. So I'm just aware that I'm like a little bit of an outsider in my family, and that comes along with things, but they're supportive, nice people. All right. So question 12. I have never been in trouble with the law.
Strongly disagree.
You've been in trouble with the law? I guess just the DUI and stuff.
DUI, that's not like arresting. I don't think it's the law if you missed car payment and they take your car away. That's more, it's like, it's legal, but it's not police coming.
I feel like I gotta put you down with a regular disagree. Like, I'm a strongly disagree.
Okay, yeah, I'm a reg.
Yeah.
And I only went to jail once.
33. So let's do a few more. Yeah, only jail one time.
Yeah, who hasn't been to jail one time?
And it's one of those things where like there's gender differences too, where just there's way higher percentage of these dark triads with males.
Yeah,
whatever
young males.
It might be. This is like status seeking, whatever else comes along with it. If we're just like expected to fight more, if that's part of a culture, whatever. It is. Guys tend to think aggression is like natural and needed and helpful in some way, and tend to celebrate it more than is really necessary. There's Sapolsky has this good story where he spent decades going to every
Baboon
summer
land.
he would live with baboons. Yeah. And his autobiography, A Primate's Memoir, is fantastic. But he talks about this where they're just shitty. They get most of their resources like pretty quickly, and then they have all the rest of the time just to like make life miserable for one another. And so it's like there's a real pecking order in most baboon troops, and then there's displaced aggression. So usually it's the guys at the top are just assholes because they can be, but then like usually with a rat or anything else, this is one of the dark troubling things is when you're shocked or something bad happens, if you just take it out on another thing, you feel so much better, quite testably, your hormones, whatever else, just like, I got shocked by a thing, that was awful, but then I bit this other rat and felt better about it. So there's just this cascade of like, guy 2 can pick on 3, can pick on 4, and so on.
Do you ever see that talk of the guy, or actually finish that thought first?
And what happened was one day, there's all these, as cities moved in, baboons would find these trash dumps from restaurants. They'd throw out their food, and but the alphas would defend that territory, so they wouldn't let any of the others in the group eat from the like pile of awesome restaurant food and stuff. And then one day they all got like malaria or something like that from the dump. They all ended up dying off, all of the alphas. And then after that, the whole tribe just all got along and cooperated perfectly.
French
Revolution. They were just like an incredibly successful tribe. And then when new like alpha males would come in and try to like take over the tribe, like would be the case in most baboon tribes, where you're like, okay, I'll try to get power here and be the guy at the top. They would just all gang up on that dude and be like, no, that's just not how we do it in our tribe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. I was asking if you'd seen that clip of the guy who he described him as something like not having the best etiquette, or not really being the most politically savvy baboon there was. And he was just kind of throwing his weight around and to people that he had no business doing that. And then a couple of the other baboons ganged up on one day, and then it's like, this was the result. And the weird thing about the talk was that he started talking about it with the dead baboon as the slide, and then points and said, this was the result. So you didn't even realize you were looking at a dead baboon the whole time. You thought because its eyes were open and its mouth was open, it was alive. And then you look closer, you're like, oh, it died with its eyes open and mouth open, screaming. And then you notice the bruises and stuff. So yeah, he loves showing pictures of dead baboons on his lectures.
Yeah, that's like a lot of this stuff can be changed, like culturally. Like testosterone, for example.
Testosterone is actually the new name.
is considered like, oh, that's for aggression. You have more testosterone, you get more aggressive. Actually, you get more competitive. So if you're at like some charity banquet and you like inject guys with more testosterone, they'll bid more, they'll like be more charitable. Or if the game is all about like who can help people the most, those guys are gonna like try to be the most helpful that they can because you gave them extra testosterone.
Nice.
It's just that in a culture where it's like, this is what we value. We do MMA and we like love when weird celebrity con artists are like rich and awful and shitty to people. Then like dudes are like, okay, is that how you get to the top? I guess I'll just behave that way as well. Not to say MMA is ruining the world or anything like that, but celebrating aggression and these sort of like darker traits are probably not the most helpful to tribal behavior, in my opinion.
There's a good way to channel it, and I'm not really in the MMA world at all, but I think there's a lot of MMA people. I think most of them are probably not aggressive. We just hear about the ones that are, but they're the least likely to get into a fight, or probably least likely to actually hurt someone. They know the best way to disarm without actually causing physical harm. But they should build a big charity tent around Earth, kind of like what I said at the beginning of the episode with the microphones, but inject everyone with testosterone and say it's a big charity tent Earth, then everyone's going to get competitive and do the nice thing.
They just have the Dallas Hyenas guy run around like, hey, there's a new event where we all...
That's got to be our next guest.
Be the most charitable. Yeah. Injects people. Good to go. All right. So should we take the rest of the test for the bonus episode? We're at question 13 to 36, and we did a lot of setting up of things. So the next half will be like, faster because we spent like 40 minutes.
Let's do one more quickie.
Yeah.
Just so quick.
I dominate social situations.
Right in the middle, neutral.
You're a nooch?
Right in the middle. Sometimes I'm holding court. Sometimes someone else is holding court and I'm laughing and then maybe getting a thing in there. But it's a coin toss there.
Yeah, Fig Newton. Boy. When I am social, it's holding court. And then when I'm not, like, I'm happy to be standing in the outskirts, but I just don't like make small talk or do much of it, and I'm happy to not have any attention. But then when I am like, when I am being social, it's a little more holding court-ish. It's how I'm just so used to being on stage that it's like the dynamic that I'm most comfortable with. Like,
you got to pull it back.
Yeah.
It's the comedian disease. Like, hey, I do the stage thing. Therefore, everyone wants me to be on stage. I'll take the stage everywhere I go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember like my last serious relationship, I was in Portland and we had like a big group of friends from Wisconsin that all lived out there, and we'd get Airbnbs and stuff like that and go camping together and things. And I wouldn't say much most of the time. And then there'd be like a period of time of the night where I'd be like, all right, now everyone gets to hear my weird 10-minute lecture on this thing. And it all has to do with what's been going on with everything else. And it all pieces everything together. And then I hold court for those 10 minutes and then I go, and then I'm back into the background. So I don't know. What am I? What would you say I am?
You're maybe a nooch to a agree.
All right. I'll give myself an agree. Why not? Okay.
Because I think in order to it to be registered as a data point, you must be in the social circle. So it's like if you're never in the circle, then that doesn't count. But if you're there and not saying stuff that much, then that counts as a not holding court point.
It's tough to say.
I'd put you as an agree.
Meetings and stuff. I always take the lead. I can't stop myself from interrupting very easily. I better be an agree. I better be at least an agree. All right. One more, just because they're fiending for it. I get moods where I act on a whim, thinking little of the consequences or risk.
Disagree. I could go more impulsive.
Okay, I'm strongly agree.
That's why we're the pair.
I have to watch it. Yeah, definitely. Like impulse and risk taking. In fact, all that impulse, what part of me isn't impulsive and risk taking anymore is simply because of the decades of way too many risks and way too many impulses having taught me very harsh lessons along the way. So now I'm more of an adult now than I used to be. But I'm very happy that I'm still spontaneous and like adventure and
That'll never go away.
Adventure. Yeah,
that's a key character cornerstone trait.
Mm-hmm. And I know it because I get other friends to do things that they wouldn't normally, and they're happy about it afterwards and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, again, I don't know if by the time that we have this out, we're hoping to have tickets out by like May 1st, first week of May, for the Mind Under Matter Campout in Raleigh, Friday, September 9th through Sunday, the 11th. There's also a Patreon day on the Thursday if you've been on Patreon since year one or sign up for a year. And you'll be able to camp out till Monday too. I say all that because you may want to black out more of a calendar if you want to spend more time for us. Like, for example, we'll do a closing ceremony in like the afternoon on Sunday so people can leave or whatever else, depending on their situation. But then we'll still have cool, chill music and hang out all night for anyone that sticks around. That sort of thing, putting a lot of that together, and excited to announce a band that's going to be a perfect fit, and piecing a lot of cool things together.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pearl Jam.
And so if you want to support the very hard work us to the dark duo of comedy do, go to patreon.com/mindunderpod. If you're feeling real generous, you could even be a Comante de Buffon like Mike William Young, Comante de Buffon, who is at Mike.Young1 and at Scribdraw. So you can check out some of his art and the things that he has going on. Old friend of mine, super cool guy. I believe he's coming to the Campout as well. And you can also, here's a fun thing. You can go to at MW Auctions on Instagram and check out all the cool stuff that he has on there. Place a bid. He might actually be one of the few people actually dressed like a Comante de Buffon, because he has tons of crazy, interesting estate stuff and weird things. Check out our merch, all sorts of plugs. Ramin, what's the moral of this episode? What have we learned so far?
That you, just because you may exhibit some of these traits that are negative to you and to the world, does not mean that they are who you are. You're always changing. You're always growing. You can always choose to go in the direction that you want to, more towards the light side. But also, don't worry if you've got a little dark side in you. We've all got the darkness. Yeah. And try not to judge so much. And people don't know what you know. That's a big one.
Yeah, I would say that if you find yourself taking the survey and going, oh, you know what? I was like that in high school, or I did used to get in fights at the bars when I was 21 or whatever. That's all. That was then. That's all. Like, just being younger means that a higher percentage of younger people, especially teenagers, are going to be in the Dark Triad categories. So reflecting on those, even though they are cringy, hyper salient memories from high school where you did that shitty thing to that person, I wouldn't identify with that now that you're in your 30s or however old you are. So
don't forget where you came from, though.
Yeah, some of Dark Triad
came from
stuff
West
is
Philadelphia.
Born and raised, and so some of the stuff is just opportunity for growth and understanding where you can evolve and learn to look at life through other people's eyes and things like that. So yeah, this is a really fun episode. Check out the bonus episode on Patreon, which will be out in just a couple days if it's not out and available on there already. And until next time.
Damn it.
The Dark Sword.
That's not it. Hold on.
Ascension.
Whatever. This works, maybe.
Did you...
That's not the right color. I wanted it to be the red dark side one. Oh well. Say it one more time.
You want to take that again? Do you want to edit it and everything? Well, let's edit it.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready.
There's something about the way that you said that. I was like, you were like kind of disappointed, but you were ready and excited. I don't know how to describe it. Anyway,
Yeah, it was flaccid.
There was a lot of emotions on your face. Until next time.
Keep on salivating, honeys. Ding.
Oh, and if you're on YouTube, make sure and put in the comment section your own score, and one of you will get picked to be a winner. So we'll reach out to you about that
And
soon.
you can win if you win, you can choose any one object.
Any one object from our merch store.
Yeah, I mean,
Like this amazing.
This isn't in the merch store, but it is an object.
Ooh.